just want to say we are slightly delayed only because Senator Strange is casting a vote right now. Hopefully he has voted. He has a car waiting, and he's being brought over here immediately. So hopefully we will not have a long delay. But that's why I have you all sitting here. Exactly. Whatever your preference.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess it is. Welcome to the Heritage Foundation and our Lewis Lehrman Auditorium. We're pleased to welcome those who join us on our heritage.org website on all of these occasions. And for those in-house, we ask that courtesy to see that our mobile devices have been silenced or turned off. And of course, those watching online are welcome to send questions or comments at any time, simply emailing us at speaker@heritage.org. And we will, of course, post the program on the Heritage homepage for all of your references in the future. Leading our discussion and welcoming our special guest is John Malcolm, Vice President for the Institute of Constitutional Government here at Heritage. He is also our Ed Gilbertson and Sherry Lindbergh Gilbertson Senior Legal Fellow. Prior to joining us here, he was a Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Criminal Division at the Department of Justice, served as Executive Vice President in charge of anti-piracy operations at the Motion Picture Association of America, and also served as the General Counsel at the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. Please join me in welcoming John Malcolm. John?
Thank you, John, and welcome to Heritage. So-called sanctuary cities, that is, cities and localities that are defying federal law by ordering local officials to refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities, have been very much in the news lately. In late March, the Center for Immigration Studies estimated that there are approximately 300 jurisdictions, including, by the way, the District of Columbia, that have adopted sanctuary policies. In January, President Trump issued an executive order titled Enhancing Public Safety in the Interior of the United States, in which he directed the Attorney General and the Secretary for Homeland Security to consider denying certain federal grants to sanctuary jurisdictions and directing the Attorney General to take appropriate enforcement action against any sanctuary jurisdiction that adopts policies or practices that prevent or hinder the enforcement of federal law. That executive order has been challenged in court. Texas recently passed a state law that prohibits localities from implementing or maintaining policies that prevent local officials from sharing immigration-related information with the federal government. And the Department of Justice has now weighed in on the side of Texas by filing supporting briefs in a case that was filed by the city of El Chenizo and others who are challenging the law. Just yesterday, President Trump met with victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants, and today the House of Representatives is voting on two bills, the No Sanctuary for Criminals Act and Kate's Law, named after Kate Steinle, who was killed by an illegal immigrant who had previously been deported 5 times. I'm delighted to introduce Senator Luther Strange from Alabama, who last month introduced his own bill, the Securing the Border and Protecting Our Communities Act, which addresses this issue. Senator Strange is no stranger to Heritage. We've been delighted to have him here on a number of occasions, but this is the first time in your capacity as senator. A graduate of Tulane University, where, shock of all shocks, he was on a basketball scholarship, and Tulane Law School, Senator Strange spent many years in private practice as in-house counsel at Sonat Offshore, a natural gas utility, and as a partner at the prestigious law firm of Bradley Arant Bolt Cummings, and then as a founding partner of his own firm. In 2011, he was elected Attorney General for the state of Alabama, and he served for 2 years as chairman of the Republican Attorneys General's Association. In February of this year, after Jeff Sessions was confirmed as U.S. Attorney General, Luther Strange was appointed by Alabama's governor as a United States Senator. Please join me in welcoming Luther Strange.
Thank you, John. Yeah. Well, thank you all for taking a break. I really appreciate it. I know the work you have to do here is time-consuming, and I appreciate this adjustable podium. I'm going to take this with me, John. This is unbelievable when you're 6 feet 9 inches tall to have a podium that adjusts like this. This is going to be good on my back. No, thank you very much. John, I really want to thank you for making this possible, and to the entire team at the Institute for Constitutional Government. You do great work. And I want to thank the broader leadership here at Heritage. It's an invaluable tool, as I've known for many years, for focusing on conservative action on issues that matter to us. particularly the issue of illegal immigration. Well, when it comes to policymaking, illegal immigration occupies a unique position in my experience. Seems like it's unlike healthcare, which is an omnipresent issue, as we all have seen in the last few weeks, as we see today, and we'll see next week. I've only been here 4 months, roughly, and I hoped that it had been solved and resolved, but apparently it hasn't been. So we're working on that issue. So unlike the spending bills that come around every year. For years, in my observation as Attorney General, illegal immigration's often just been viewed as the folks here in the inside the Beltway. It's just something that's just too politically toxic to address in any meaningful way. The good news is I believe the results of the 2016 election have showed, among lots of other things, that Americans do not want this issue ignored any longer. I certainly hear that message as I travel around my home state of Alabama, I can assure you. For too long, and this is really what we're talking about, the rule of law has been forgotten or completely ignored. And there's a new sense of optimism, I feel it, in this Congress with President Trump, and I have to say with my good friend Jeff Sessions as Attorney General of the United States to start to address this critical issue of illegal immigration. So despite attempts to misconstrue publicly available data, the facts are very clear. Illegal aliens are significantly more likely to commit criminal offenses than U.S. citizens or permanent residents. My friend and your own Hans von Spakovsky, who's sitting down here on the first row's recent piece, sets the record straight on this, explaining how the public data paints a picture that the left clearly would rather not show. I won't go into the statistics, but they're quite stunning to see the amount, the population in our prisons who come from the illegal alien population. And added to that, once they encounter law enforcement, they average many, many more contacts in the context of arrest and so forth than others in this country. Of course, the crimes that are committed by illegal aliens run the gamut from petty burglary and petty crimes to cold-blooded murder. But in my view, they're all an affront to our nation's rule of law. And I say this as an Attorney General who was charged with upholding the Constitution and the rule of law in my state. But the data is just not describing the high rate of crime among the illegal population in this country. It's telling us that time and time again, criminal aliens are given the opportunity to offend again, sometimes deadly results for our citizens, something that's very frustrating and frankly hard for the average citizen of this country to understand. So consider the famous case, infamous case, the shooting death of Kate Steinle in San Francisco, and John alluded to that, in 2015 in cold blood at the hands of an illegal alien. It's helpful to remind ourselves that Kate's killer had been deported from the United States 5 times. 5 times. In the immediate aftermath, even Democrats seemed to show outrage at the idea that the San Francisco Sheriff's Office could release this killer without even notifying ICE. Of course, and perhaps inevitably, this outrage has faded now that it's no longer politically convenient for the left. The sanctuary cities that claim to be defending the human rights of illegal aliens are in fact failing the citizens of this country. Kate's law, which will raise maximum penalties for repeated illegal entry and crack down on sanctuary cities, will be voted on in the House today. That is really great news, and I look forward to pushing for justice for Kate in the Senate as soon as possible. But we know this is not a problem just contained limited to the border states. January 31st of last year, 21-year-old young lady from Iowa was hit and killed by an illegal alien. Her name was Sarah Root. The illegal alien was drunk behind the wheel. He posted a bond that was lower than her funeral cost, promptly disappeared, and remains at large. We also know that this is not a new problem. It's not something that just happened recently with the debate flamed by recent tragedies. In my own state of Alabama, 2009, 19-year-old Ted Maddle and 16-year-old Lee Jimerson were hit and killed by an illegal alien driving while drunk. He had 3 previous arrests for drunk driving. And for those victims left behind, there are always going to be questions of justice. When the tragedy strikes, families and communities seek answers, of course. They grapple with questions of faith, of chance, of what the higher meaning of all this is. But imagine having to come to terms with the fact that the death of a loved one was entirely preventable, and fully the responsibility of a government that failed to do its job. I can tell you, as the former chief law enforcement official of my state, that is a very difficult conversation or an explanation to give. Well, during the Obama administration, we saw an unprecedented, unwarranted extension of amnesty programs and a focus on tangential, I would call them tangential distractions from the root of illegal immigration, the crisis. Troubling lack of urgency in addressing this problem, and it's a problem that completely undermines the rule of law, the issue of sanctuary cities, which I want to talk about today. For better or for worse, going back to my days as Attorney General, I'm no stranger to the national debate on illegal immigration. Over the past 6 years before I came to Washington and was honored to be the Attorney General, I had the best job in the world, and immigration played into that. And I'm borrowing from my friend Greg Abbott's often quoted statement for all of us Republican conservative AGs that it was the best job in the world because we got to go to the office every day and try and figure out a way to sue the Obama administration. Well, that's a sad comment. It's a sad comment, but it was true. But it was very sad that you would have to do that. But when you go back to your oath of upholding the Constitution and the rule of law, and you have someone that's undermining it, then you're fulfilling your oath, which is, if you think about it, the fundamental underpinnings of all the freedoms and liberties that we enjoy in this nation. Of course, there were a lot of things that we could and did sue the Obama administration on. Many of those issues have been debated and highlighted very, very well here at Heritage, and I greatly appreciate that partnership. John mentioned that I chaired the Republican Attorneys General Association. We have now 26, 27, maybe more if you count the appointed AGs, conservative Republicans in the United States of America. That's a huge improvement over just a few years ago. Filed suit on the EPA, overreaching regulations across the board there, restrictions on religious liberty, the Second Amendment, financial institutions, and a whole string of other things that disregarded the law, the rule of law, public safety, and the security of this country. And that all came to a head and really was highlighted by the issue of illegal immigration. After just to give you one example, after President Obama introduced his executive amnesty order back in 2014, Texas, Alabama, and 24 other states took action to block the order. It was the order, you recall, that allowed 4 million illegal aliens to stay in the United States. It was clearly a direct challenge to the rule of law and our orderly system of immigration that we should never forget have allowed millions and millions and millions of people to come to our country legally and become productive citizens of our nation. We were very fortunate, as we were in many of the cases involving Obama's administration's overreach, to win that case in the Fifth Circuit and also up to the Supreme Court, one of the many victories we had. But that time could have been spent doing other things as opposed to fighting our own federal government, of course. Well, I came to Washington just a few months ago to tackle tough issues, complex questions, with my goal of delivering conservative, common sense reforms to problems that really affect our citizens' lives. When it comes to illegal immigration, unfortunately, however, that effort has suffered from a lack of focus. And here's what I mean by that. Here's my opinion on that issue. I don't think we can consider enacting new policies in this area until we're showing that we're serious about and able to enforce the current laws already on the books. It doesn't seem like such a novel idea if you went to law school or if you think about it, that we would actually enforce the laws on the books. But the people of our country, with a lack of confidence that their government will do that, I think will be very unlikely to go into the debate about whether we have new laws if we're not enforcing the ones we already have. Are we respecting the rule of law in this country? Having said that, I'm very encouraged by the steps being taken so far by President Trump and Attorney General Sessions to refocus on this priority. beginning with the executive order that the president signed during his first week in office. I think you may have alluded to that, John. The president made it very clear that sanctuary cities will be more than an abstract, quote, rhetorical kind of problem in this country. They'll actually be the focus of federal law enforcement and will be confronted with the rule of law that does not take into account special exceptions. We're serious about this law, but not that one. That is so encouraging. And I want to obviously credit my friend General Sessions, who's taken the next logical steps, announcing plans to withhold federal law enforcement funding for non-compliant jurisdictions. The Attorney General and I have been friends. We've worked closely together for years in previous roles, and I'm sure I don't have to assure you, I hope I don't, but I will, in any event, that the Department of Justice is in the most capable hands and capable and ready to begin the work of reaffirming this country as a nation of laws. So that's the optimistic side of it. Now we're on offense to restore the rule of law. So I'm excited today to have this opportunity to share with you my bill to go a step further and give the Department of Justice a new tool in the fight to restore the rule of law to sanctuary cities and resume enforcement of our federal immigration laws that are on the books today. The bill is S. 1126. It's titled the Securing the Border and Protecting Our Communities Act. And I believe it's a common sense measure with two simple motivations and two simpler outcomes. First, when jurisdictions refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities, they put our citizens at risk. As the tragedies we've seen across the country tell us, it's not just the people of the sanctuary cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, or Washington, D.C. that stand to encounter violent criminals at the hands of illegal aliens, the crime at the hands of illegal aliens. This is an abdication of conscience that bleeds across state and local lines, and it endangers the lives of all Americans. Second, in certain jurisdictions in California, liberal state and local lawmakers have taken their disregard for the rule of law a step further. A bill passed the California State Senate earlier this month that would ban the award of any state-funded building contracts to firms that bid to work on the construction of the president's southern border wall. That's right. California is one state assembly vote away from establishing a politically motivated blacklist, and that's what the only thing you can call it, of local businesses with which it disagrees. This is an affront to the market economy that drives our entire nation's prosperity. It endangers our freedom, and it's un-American, just plain and simple. The state of Alabama has a proud tradition of legal immigration, as do all the states in our country. Thousands of Alabamians have jobs thanks to the enterprising spirit and big ideas of legal immigrants who brought auto manufacturing and, dare I say, going back into history, space flight to our nation and to our state. Thousands more come here legally, have come here legally, and they're pursuing the American dream as small businessmen and women across our state and nation. We're clearly a nation of immigrants, what creates our vitality and our fantastic diversity. And the fact that citizens and others who are here lawfully might be harmed by an unlawful measure picking winners and losers in the name of illegal immigration is the height of irony and liberal hypocrisy. So, my bill has two simple outcomes. Sanctuary jurisdictions can either follow the law or fund the wall. Failure to comply with federal immigration authorities and continued efforts to interfere with the lawful pursuit of border wall contracts by local businesses will be met